Hey everybody, Alex Miller at Capnion here. Today I'd like to share some information about a data breach at the popular video game streaming service Twitch. Talk about some things that I think are interesting, some things that I think are unusual, and maybe some things that are notably not unusual about this particular incident. So what happened? About a week ago on October 6th, it was announced that there had been a major data breach at Twitch. What had happened was there was a misconfiguration of one of their servers that allowed a malicious actor to get entry and to steal a bunch of data. And right away, one thing worth pointing out, in the movies, the hacker gets out of bed and decides to hack somebody, and they do something really cool and interesting to get it done. In reality, hackers are always waiting like creepy spiders in cyberspace, and often specifically looking for somebody that made one of a list of known mistakes that would allow them to get entry. So this is very typical of that phenomenon, which you see in a lot of other instances. Another thing to emphasize is there's not a standard list of sort of clearinghouses for shady information. In this case, the information from the hack was posted on the popular website 4chan. 4chan isn't technically the dark web, but it's a similar story there where there's a number of well-known websites, and security companies, for example, will monitor them closely where this kind of illicit information tends to end up. Okay, so what did Twitch lose? This was a pretty big one, although there are some bright spots where it appears Twitch was using some good practices that mitigated the damage. So they lost all of their source code more or less back to the dawn of time, apparently, which is a big deal. Related to that is information about the sort of architecture that source code was running on. And these things, it should be noted, are both substantial cybersecurity liabilities going forward. A brighter spot is that they lost encrypted password information and partial credit card information, but notably not the whole thing. So it's possible that because that information is obscured or encrypted, it might be safe forever. And at the very least, you've got some time to cover your ass if you're involved and make sure you get a new credit card or you have changed your password. And this is probably a reflection of good practices inside Twitch, although I have not seen that said explicitly. A really interesting one lost in this particular case that I think is worth discussing in detail is they lost information about how much they were paying to their various creators. And this is an interesting and underappreciated theme, I think, in data breaches, where very often the data that is lost has some important spillover in different specific people and organizations' private lives. So I'll give an example. And if you like to torture yourself by paying attention to what's trending on Twitter, you may have seen some discussion related to this. And if you're not a gamer like I'm not a gamer, you might have found it strange. So there's this fellow named Hassan Piker. He's a very popular political commentator on Twitch, apparently. A lot of his commentary is of a socialist nature. He is apparently very well paid by Twitch. And I don't want to take sides on the politics one way or another, other than to say that this guy deserved to have his privacy maintained. But this guy was a punching bag on social media over the weekend because people viewed that there was a gulf between his political opinions and his apparently lavish compensation. Another general note here, there's actually across sports, and people are starting to think more about video games as sports. You hear the term esports out there. There's a lot of interesting issues of market power and market concentration. And in this case, if you want to be a big esports personality, you don't have a whole lot of options outside of Twitch for doing it. And so you're dependent on Twitch, and you kind of get to ride along with whatever kind of decisions they make about cybersecurity and privacy, which in some people's cases is now a decision about their personal privacy or lack thereof. And you could say similar things. In the United States, most of our sports leagues are de facto national cartels. In the esports case, the cybersecurity angle is even more important because it's all intrinsically digital native. And then finally, what can you do about these things as an everyday person? If you have two-factor auth available, turn it on. it would protect you if you were involved in this Twitch breach, and it'll protect you from similar things elsewhere. It's generally a good practice, and maybe you don't want to be doing business with people that don't offer it to you. So go turn your two-factor auth on if you haven't already.